Hello, my name is Michael Berger, and I have an associate's degree in mechanical engineering and a bachelor's degree in digital science. I have a certificate in AutoCAD and cybersecurity. I worked as a student IT assistant at the University of Akron, a math tutor at Stark State College, SMT operator at Airborne Electronics, and as a student team leader at Kent State University in the Federated Desktop Support Department.
And my name is Gregory Hess. I have a bachelor's degree in digital sciences from Kent State University. I have a Test-Out Security Pro certification, as well as numerous certifications through LinkedIn courses. I've held numerous IT positions in end-user support across Kent State, Beechwood Systems, and Northeast Ohio, and in my local area, in local town of Northeast Ohio, as I reside. And I'm en route to a rotational in Brooklyn, Ohio, this coming summer. As of February of 2023, I reside at a business analyst position in my current company in a bank in the Ohio area. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the TechIT podcast. We're having another juicy, good episode of the TechIT podcast today with a lot of good stories that are going to see if we can fit this one in the time allotted. It is March 5th of 2023. I'm one of your co-hosts, Gregory, here with my friend Mike, here to talk about some of the big stories, including verification being added to social media that has to be paid every month, as well as big cases in the realm of Section 230, as well as video games coming to the Olympics finally next year in a sort of serious capacity. And much more here on today's episode. But first, Mike, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Had a pretty good week. Got out, got some sunshine, got in the pool. All good things. How are you doing?
I've been pretty good. I actually went on to the dating circuit for the first time in a while, so that was all good. I met some good people, as well as hang out with some others Friday night, just to help ease the tension from starting my new position as a business analyst.
Congrats on the new position.
Yeah, it's not really a new position, rather a new placement. So, part of the rotation program I'm in, of course, but that's kind of how it's been going, but I'm looking more optimistic about this with everyone being more consolidated and ready for what's to come. And speaking of being ready for what's to come, AI. There's been a lot of talk about AI, even more than usual lately, with over 100 million users using the GPT tool that we've been seeing strung up probably on a lot of services, which even the mainstream's kind of news of. Worried about if it's, taking jobs. It's gonna, people have seen it, worried that it's gonna take over education, but my focus here today with Mike here with me is the battle between Google and Microsoft regarding the AI fight.
And they're trying to implement their AI into their browser search. I think ChatGPT is more of like a chat feature. You kind of like type it in and chat with like an AI to like get you what information you need, right?
Yeah, it's like an all-purpose tool. Like people have gave it like interesting prompts to try out across like all boards, from making recipes to making poetry to doing essays by itself on topics within like a certain allotment. Like you can type into it, give me a 1,000-word essay on medieval times philosophy, and it'll do it. So that's been one of the concerns of AI lately, is the whole authenticity nature of it all. But in one corner we got Microsoft, and in one corner we got Google with its Bard AI.
Well, I see this as having a lot of potential. As I was watching another podcast, and they mentioned or they were actually testing the software, and they mentioned wanting to fill their trunk with like I don't know, it was like sandbags or something, and they asked the AI how many of these no, it was book bags. How many of these book bags will fit into the trunk of my car? Um, and it would go out and find the measurements for the book bag, and then it would go out and find the measurements for the car, like the trunk of the car, and it would do the math for you. So there's a lot of potential there. Just not having to like go buy like a bunch of book bags and like extrapolate from there. Um, or let's say that you like wanted to fill your trunk with something like I don't know, like bananas or oranges or something, and sell them out of the trunk of your car or whatever.
Oh yeah, for delivery people.
Yeah,
Delivery.
or for delivery people or whatever. And um, you can kind of do all the math at home if you needed to. So definitely has some cool features to it. I think it's got a long way to go. The podcast I was watching, they tested they did a lot of different tests on asking it questions, and they managed to stump it. Like it couldn't give all the information they asked for all the time.
Yeah.
But it did have a good like a good amount of percent of the time it did do what it was asked, which is
Mhm.
good. But it's not going to be able to sit there and, as far as jobs go, I think some jobs are at risk. Like I was listening to a radio show the other day, and they were talking about how someone came out with, I think they used Chat GPT, and they made an AI bot, or was it Chat GPT? I can't remember which AI it was, but they made a bot to host radio shows. So I do see that happening. I could see how that would put some people's jobs at risk. But you're not going to be able to go out and be like, "Hey, Chat GPT, will you write this code for me?" It's not going to be able to do that yet. It's a long way away from.
No, no, and there's been other avenues and use cases where it's kind of proven like to be a good limelight for things, but there have been ways that people have exploited it and the like by in some other realms of information just kind of dip their fingers into finding ways to stump it, like in the other corner in blue, the Google Bard AI, that was stumped almost immediately by somebody just asking a simple question about, I think it was about exoplanets and distances between them. And the Google AI couldn't do it. And it was so damaging that upon launch, Google stock dropped 8%.
Wow,
And
that's a
Google's
big,
not stopping with that whole
that's a big
ground.
chunk. Well, it's still it's still early on, and I'm sure they're still doing a lot of testing. Like making something as complex as AI, um, it's going to take time, and it needs access to a lot of data. So the more data it has access to, the better it will get. But
Well, yeah, and we'll keep an eye on that because it's an ongoing matter with AI debates and how it's going to fare. Maybe we'll have a one-off on AI altogether later on before the summer. But speaking of accessibility, we have two figureheads of social media are now asking for paid two-factor authentication or for a more enhanced authentication system, which has caught eyes because well, authentication used to be free, of course, with across apps like Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, Twitter, and the two we're talking about today specifically are Twitter and Facebook launching paid verification systems, which comes off the heels of months ago where Twitter had a pay $8 a month and you can verify yourself as anybody, which had some very, very rough goings on, like about identity and everything with that. Just because you had $90, you can basically pretend to be somebody else and say it's all good. But I wonder if this idea will fare over time myself as someone that's not even using either Facebook or Twitter. But they do explain how costly SMS verification is for companies to just be able to grab all these phone numbers. So I didn't look at it in that light. But what's your take on this, Mike? Though.
Well, here's the thing. That's not the only way of doing it. It doesn't just have to be SMS verification. There's other ways of doing it. There's authenticator apps, and there's all kinds of things. But just looking at the companies in general, Twitter is kind of, after Elon Musk bought it, is kind of going through a huge change. He's trying to make it from what it is now. He's trying to change it into something more like TikTok or like the Everything app, right?
Yeah, like the app X that you found out about in China, which
Uh-huh.
I don't blame him for wanting to venture out and make something like that in America. I don't, but
I mean, it's a good way to go. I totally agree with the way he's going with, or the idea. I think the way he's going about it is wrong, because this is something that many companies don't charge you for up front. They don't like you get the security no matter what level user you are.
yeah,
I I know of many video games that have this authentication built into their system. It's not something you have to pay for. It could be a free video game, and they already have all these authentication features.
yeah,
Um, so that just kind of makes them look overall very money grabby, and I feel like they're kind of pushing people away. And as far
exactly.
as Facebook goes, um, do we really need another reason to leave Facebook and Instagram? Like, we know that the company is money grabby. We know that they're heading down a bad route with selling data. Um,
Which they've been guilty of, but now
yeah,
more people are starting to realize how guilty they are of stealing data, which again goes as far back as the Cambridge Analytica trial of 2017, where he basically phoned it in and said, like, ha ha ha,
like
what are you gonna do?
the only reason I still have an Insta and a Facebook is because, well, or not. I mean, I know a ton of people that still use Insta. I think Facebook is the one that's more phasing out, right?
Yeah,
And more people are switching to other apps as well. So I feel like by Meta doing this, they're pushing people farther away from their system, which is the opposite. They need to find ways to make the, unless they're trying to bankrupt their company, they need to find ways to bring people back, because every day more people are leaving that.
yeah, that'd be an interesting theory, actually. Meta self-sabotaging itself and its own social network so people will go to the metaverse side of it that they've dumped a fair amount of money into. I don't remember the figure right now, but it's like nine figures at least for the metaverse. That's how much they've invested into the metaverse idea, which for those of you who haven't watched previous episodes, hasn't fared well in terms of users that want to use it, as well as other things. But the sticking point I found about Meta regarding this story before I close it out is that paying for this verification system, you also get front row access, like a fast lane at Cedar Point down here in Ohio. Shout out to Cedar Point. That you get front row access to customer support. So basically, if you're verified and if you pay us more, you'll get customer service faster. And if you don't, you get the bots. And we've all run into those bad customer service bots before, where it's like putting you on hold.
Yeah,
Type 1 if you do this. Type 2 if it's a bug that you've reported. And you have to keep clicking these buttons until you never talk to a person. But for this paid system, you can fast track yourself away from those annoying bots that were probably made back in 2013 or something.
and we're seeing those more and more as it. I assume it just clears up their queues. I assume people are calling in and they just can't handle the queue. Um, so I think that's why we're seeing those more and more. Um,
Yeah,
as access to that technology becomes more and more prevalent. But speaking of technology being more and more prevalent, and we're going to look at the Microsoft accidentally offers Windows 11 upgrades, does unsupported PCs. So this article is about what I think what they were saying is they said, hey, upgrade to Windows 11, and they started to upgrade, and then it failed, and they're saying the reason it failed was because their CPU was not up to snuff with the requirements. I chalk this up to a testing failure.
Oh yeah.
I think all of lately Windows 11 or Microsoft in general, or what it seems like they've been doing with Windows 11 is they've been trying to rush this to market, and it seems like they haven't been thoroughly testing their software as much as they used to.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, if it's like setbacks or not, because in the big tech acronym that we call FANG with two A's, which Microsoft is a part of, sadly, even though they're still big tech, defined as big tech, they are also one of the companies in that big realm of big tech that have laid off people. Still, amongst this sort of pseudo post-COVID world where they let people go even though they have major profits gains from like quarter 3 or 4, or even this quarter 1 earnings calls where they get together and go like, look at all the zeros we have. Pay no attention to the people we laid off like back in January. But this also, to me, just shows the just like you said, the brashness of Microsoft lately, which has been a theme of Microsoft lately, as they've just thrown $100+ million at AI and ChatGPT itself, just to say, "Oh, I think it's going to come around. Please, we want this to work out." While the concerns are rising with what we already mentioned, all the while, this mistake, which is the second time this mistake has come up in just 2 years, is that they're supposed to expect an update they're referring to as Moment 2, which is supposed to add new improvements, supposedly in their words, to the taskbar and search and start menu for those that have Windows 11. So, if they promise to hold that up, I'm not sure. I don't even have Windows 11 on my machine because I've had numerous people tell me in the field to not do that because of the lack of customization and etc.
Right. I am still holding off on that, pulling that trigger and upgrading my system to Windows 11 as well. I just want to make sure that they work out a good amount of the bugs before I even switch over to that.
Yeah, because that's also still there.
As switching back is kind of a pain in the ass, especially if you wait too long. It's not just something that you can do like with the click of a button.
Oh no, it's an arduous process for an OS to upgrade, and I feel like 11 wasn't completely well done. Back when it was like, what was it, October 21 they released it, I think. And I think it wasn't perfect, and there are the people that rushed it to download and buy it, and then they suddenly were like mystified as to how to get anything or anywhere with the new browser, where the UI changes were so prevalent and different to some people, as well as burying stuff that people like to know about, like change which apps open what types of files, which it peeved me off about how hidden it is now to just change how you want PDFs to open. Just something as simple as that, as well as MP3, MOV, and movie editing software has more of a hesitancy for this software and OS system of 11. But speaking of tendencies that can cause tension, we're going to run over to techradar.com now for a piece that I've checked personally that no one else is covering besides tech-focused websites like techradar.pro or .com, excuse me, about the current U.S. president and the GOP in their talks to hold tech firms responsible for web moderation and challenging Section 230. Now, Mike, do you know what Section 230 is?
Isn't that the government holding the web moderators like Google and or no, it's not Google. It's whoever's hosting the services, right?
Yes.
It's
So
holding them responsible for what's on their servers, right?
yeah.
Or at least what's advertised through their servers. When I read this article, they were talking about some of the the number one or two search results have been links to terrorist organizations. Um,
hmm
so as far as that goes, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of my links or my searches going towards that route. So I understand why they want to moderate it. I think we have to be careful giving that much power um, to any form of government. I think we don't want them to be able to moderate things too heavily. Um, I think because for certain things down the road, they're like, oh yeah, this they could limit our freedoms and liberties, but just by saying, oh yeah, a terrorist accessed that website and it's a website, it's your bank or something, so then
Yeah.
you can't go to your bank or yeah. So I don't know,
Just something as simple as YouTube, which they've come under fire before for not
right?
banning terrorist content itself. But the two cases I know about that are going to challenge this, huge cases that we're going to probably cover in future episodes, probably as early as April, even, is there's a case where a Muslim-born gentleman says Google's at fault for his uncle being radicalized to ISIS back in, I think it was 2016 or 17, back when they were like peak talking points, that terrorist organization down in the Middle East. He's saying Google's at fault and that they should be responsible for what has befallen to his uncle, as well as I think it was a case about a kid losing his life because he saw some dangerous material on YouTube and Google as well. So those are the two big cases that I know about that are going to be heard about in court about as late as August regarding what numerations want to come about with this matter.
Yeah, I think to sum this up, we want to protect our citizens.
Yes.
We also don't want to limit their freedom.
Yes.
So
Which that's why it makes it interesting when it's Biden and the Republicans working together to best figure out this because
right, and I'm glad everyone's working together to figure this out.
yeah, and this is a huge scoop for us to tell you about this again because I've heard next to nothing about this story from the mainstream platforms. So I don't, not like I always want to show that off about our show, but this one really slipped under there, which you don't.
Well,
It's like they don't want to see unity being passed through, like just trying to get something matter as linked as terrorism
let's
being like passed along. So we'll keep a close eye on this going forward, but those court cases especially. So
well, speaking about unity, let's talk about the Olympics and how they're adding esports to the Olympics.
yeah,
Um,
so what's your thoughts on this in general? Video games at the Olympics in the summer.
I think they need to be very picky on what they put in there. Um,
Yeah,
I noticed that they put Just Dance, which is it's like Dance Dance Revolution, right?
yeah, it's like it came out on the Wii and Connect, and now I think it's at a point where you can use your smartphone as a remote,
Interesting. See, I
as a
I really
controller.
like I really like the idea of because it's like dancing, right?
Yeah,
You kind of like it just dancing without having to learn the steps ahead of time.
no, yeah,
I mean, I guess you would practice, but like it's I guess it's kind of like having a song sheet, right? If you're a singer, you can carry, or if you're like a pianist, you carry your notes with you.
yeah,
Uh, you don't know every song, right? But I think like another reason I like Just Dance is because there's a lot of movement. Like it takes, you can sweat by playing Dance Dance Revolution, which I loved that game as a kid. Um, Played the hell out of it.
Oh yeah, we all did. The arcades where it actually cost money bills to
Oh
use
yeah.
the DDR machines back in me and Mike's day at the arcade. Which please help your local arcade, by the way, if you see one. Always a good throwback for us. But anyway,
But like, what else would you include in this? Like, what other games do you think are fair for the Olympics?
well, for the IOC crowd, which is very, very normy, again, I want to preface this very normy for gaming because there's 9 virtual sports also in this. They include just virtual versions of archery, baseball, and cycling, to name a few. But what I've seen them get flack for, and myself is included in this flack that people are giving them with how basic this lineup is how they're not really including the more niche and actually popular esports games, as some would say, like Fortnite, Dota 2, League. I mean, that'll be funny if like I'm watching the Olympics in the summer, and after watching an intense swimming matchup, I watch a League of Legends game with like the American team probably getting creamed by the South Korean team because those pack huge crowds. But I
Mhm.
can get why they're being safe with this, with Gran Turismo and Just Dance being the prime.
Oh, they're also putting chess, virtual chess, in there, right?
Yeah, and
Which, so, do you agree that? See, I'm all for Dance Dance Revolution. I think this has a very strong presence because you have to be in fit. You have to be fit to do that. Um,
well, this is
for
Just Dance, which is a hybrid of that. But the movement aspect I find interesting with how they're going to present competitive Just Dance.
mhm. So if you add stuff that's like League of Legends or Valorant or Dota or
Overwatch, even maybe. I don't know.
yeah, if you add stuff like that, how do you justify um the non-athletic part of it?
Yeah, like about how is qualification going to work? Because what I'm seeing here is that qualification for the esports series is currently open and will close on May 15th at the time of us recording this.
And I
So,
don't, and and so I'm sorry to cut you off, but I don't want to minimize the training and the effort that people put into
oh,
esports
oh no,
as a
we're not.
whole because I am a gamer myself and I understand how much goes in. Like the pros, when if you listen to the pros talk about like Valorant, League of Legends players, Dota players, they talk about their training schedules and they train. So they get up, they exercise, they have a set like diet that they have to stick to. They practice for 8 hours a day, and they have like there's so much that goes into it. Like it's literally like if you're training for a sport, you do the same exact thing that you would do for training for like a pro setting of esports.
Exactly. So, it's a
So
matter
I
of
think it's I think it
commitment.
yeah I think it's interesting. I just don't want to encourage kids to sit in their gaming chairs for 8 hours a day if they're not getting out and getting exercise because the pros they get their exercise and they know that it's part of their training routine. Um, so I think it's definitely something we need to keep an eye on because I want to encourage good health among all kinds of Olympic events.
Oh yeah, that's what I want to sum us up with as well. As I see many people, mostly of the age of 40, being looking at this news and going like, "Oh, what? Oh, how? What's going wrong with the Olympics showing gaming?" And
Yeah,
it's like this is very niche. They pick niche options to appeal to you normies that watch the Olympics.
and I think
And
I think another game that I would be a big fan of is Beat Saber. I don't know if you ever played Beat Saber,
I
but
have once or twice.
it is pretty active. Uh, Instead of like dancing around with your legs, you're swinging your arms, and it takes a lot of coordination. I think Beat Saber it's not as I don't know if it's as fun. I really liked Dance Revolution, so maybe that's just a lot of nostalgia for me. But I think I like Dance or Just Dance better. But I think Beat Saber would definitely make it to the top of my list for that.
I also would find it fascinating to me if Dota 2 made its way to the IOC stage at the Olympics in 2024, and Razer sponsors the whole thing.
Yeah, are you a big Dota fan?
That'd be just something very vivid about that, just seeing Razer at the Olympics. Because I personally don't buy their products. I'm a Logitech guy, but just seeing that image would just be so fascinating to see like sports, the like Today Show and like other yuppies that like call the Olympics and stuff. Switch over to like the ESPN U guys who talk about gaming for like an hour just to cover this event. But time will tell with this one if more sports come out of it or they throw it out all together. I don't. We're gonna keep looking at this one as it evolves over time. So, would you say is that all we got, Mike, for today?
Yeah, that I think that wraps it up pretty well.
Yeah. So we'll keep a good eye on those stories that we just covered today in this lightning round version of our podcast today, and we'd just like to say thank you everyone for listening to us today on this March 5th episode of the TechIT podcast. Feel free to look at our Patreon as well as we encourage you to try our side project that we call the Health Awareness Podcast here in our new reformed studio of the M&G Productions office here that we have, even though we're both far away from each other right now.
Virtual office, I would say.
Virtual office that we have at the M&G Productions. So thank you all, and we welcome any feedback that we have here at the studio itself, and then some. And we welcome any feedback that you have, of course, for our show, and we put this out here on SoundCloud, YouTube, and Buzzsprout. And remember, always, again, stay vigilant.
Stay vigilant, everyone.